so today we'll be going over chapters 16, 17, 18, and 19 for Work the System. And David, you are our spokesperson, so take it away.
Awesome. So, quick summary, chapter 16, this is extraordinary systems. Chapter 17, this is consistency. Chapter 18 is all about communication. And chapter 19, we talk about the biological prime time versus mechanical prime time. So if you didn't do your reading, you'll be very excited about this chapter. So, extraordinary systems. So this is kind of where he talks about, how to really attract and keep people due to just your systems, so that's kind of having like a great recruitment system. So when you listen to him, he actually goes through a handful of questions he and his team will kind of go through in their head, or actually, I think they may have it written out on paper. And so he's got a few of them. I don't know that I would implement all of them into my business, but for instance, did the applicant show up on time? He does an aptitude test, did they meet that minimum score? Why did they apply for the position? Or are they applying for any position? Did the applicant smile? Did the applicant listen to you and understand? And so it's a lot of these really good questions that, when you go to interview people, I don't know how much interviewing you guys have done. I know, Laura, you've done some, but it's just sometimes you get into the interview, and I know for me, the excitement will kind of take off sometimes. You get to talking to somebody that actually can hold a conversation, and you really start to forget, okay, well, what were we even here for? But, he has a system for that. So kind of reading through that, any kind, and actually hearing that, any kind of thoughts that you have on that, does it kind of make it kind of paint a clearer picture for, once you come down the line to that for your business, or as you start to continue to do that into your business, do you see yourself adding some of those questions and some of those nuances as you bring in new people?
So I do, and hiring and firing is probably the scariest part of my whole job. They tell you the only system I've ever had as far as hiring and firing is make sure you have 3 months worth of that person's salary and savings, because the idea is if you give them the proper 30, 60, 90 and 90 days, they should be making money. But I did find it interesting, because I did read that chapter. I did find it interesting that he spent a lot more time focusing on the system for the hiring, and then making sure there was a good system once the hire was in their position.
Right.
And focusing a lot more on who they were as opposed to what skills they had. Not that he pushed the skills to the side, but it was almost like if you've got the right systems and the right people, the right training will make it work. And that's, I think, more, when we were hiring for Christian, that was more of what, Louis and I talked about on the back end, was listen, we understand he's going to have a learning curve because his skill level was lower, right? He didn't know exactly how to do the job, but we were looking for someone who would fit into our system and where we are as a business. And that, when we hired our first virtual assistant for social media, she freaked out when it was oh my God, I expect you to kick it up a notch and just step in and do what you're supposed to do without a lot of guidance. Whereas Christian is okay, he never tells me no, he just jumps in and tries to do it. And so I think that I'm excited that that's kind of our process for hiring. Although now, after reading this chapter, I realized that I was definitely missing some steps. My grandma once interviewed for a job as a housekeeper, and the owner of the house laid a broom down in the walkway as if it had fallen. And she was the only person that didn't step over it, that picked it up, and she ended up getting the job. But I feel like a lot of did they smile? A lot of his questions are kind of a test like that. Do they actually go the extra mile as far as, as opposed to, do they have the skill set?
Right. Alicia, anything to add?
So I like that chapter a lot. It sounds like a place I would actually like to work. I have left a lot of jobs because I crave that structure. I'm someone who can come in and get it done. I just need consistency from leadership and the tools to do it. And so, like, I enjoyed it. That's how I perceive things as a consumer as well. Like, I can't stand when I have to be passed off from one agent to another because they didn't give that first person the resources or the confidence to solve a problem at the first interaction. So
Mhm.
I love that he talks about how terrible his phone answering service was, and then talks about starting to understand as a consumer what that's like. So I really enjoyed that chapter. Um, I don't hope to do a lot of hiring and firing. I don't know that I want to be one of those large agent teams, but I definitely see it in the office already, just in terms of like need more like-minded people, and we need to figure out what that structure looks like to get them attracted to us, so that we can. And he said, if you was it this chapter? I think it was chapter 16. He says, and I liked the imagery of, if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna implement any of this, it has to be all ships are full steam ahead. And so, like, that was something. I don't know, was I complaining yesterday, Laura? It was something I noted to Laura yesterday, is like, we are physically being hindered by the other people not being full steam ahead with us. So I like that. I hope we can figure out a productive way to bring like-minded people to us.
Well, I think you bring up such a good point with the like-minded people, because, it's not, I think everybody has the same goal, but so many people have so many different paths and ways of getting there that, some people think laying in bed all day is going to get them there. And other people think that, running on the same rat wheel will get them there. I don't know that one is better than the other, but I think the like-minded person thing is so important, especially when you're looking to hire and fire. I just talked to an agent last week who had to release someone who she had been friends with for a decade. When she was looking to fill this position, she had seen this person working often and felt that this person would do a really good job in the position. And although she knew how to do the position, the lack of like-mindedness on how much this position should be worked, I think, was different. And the end result, although the goals, I think, were the same, the end results were different. I think the hire was willing to get there substantially slower than the business owner.
Right. So I like that his hiring, like, it's funny because it actually kind of flows right into the next two chapters. What he's really, really looking for is like that consistency with the, that systems focused mindset, and then the communication. So if you kind of go into the chapter 17, he even kind of relates it back to our personal life, because, once we get into chapter 19, as you start doing some of those things, you get more and more time for yourself, and you're going to start pulling it into your personal life. I mean, he's like, even that's kind of, you can approach it from the same system mindset. He was talking about how, you systematically follow up with friends and, friends and family, just on holidays, on birthdays, like routine events, it's just kind of having that systems mindset almost kind of enforces that consistency. And I feel like he starts that with his hiring system. He's hiring, and then he's looking for consistency, and then that communication. Any notes on consistency that really kind of stuck out to you at all, Alicia?
Is this the chapter 17?
Yes.
The cold coffee. So I like that story.
Mm-hmm.
We went to visit my brother in Wyoming in 2016, I think, and we had first discovered these, what we called like sheds of coffee in the parking lot, because they look, when you go to Home Depot, you can pick a shed. and that's what they look like. And we're like, oh my gosh, these are so cool. So I love that he used that example because I knew exactly what he was talking about. And they are very cool, but I could see how, you know, each one is kind of its own thing, and you know, it really depends who you get to work your kiosk. And for that, it reminded me, do you guys know who Chap.16-19 is? So my friend put me on him, and he gives a lot of business advice. Is a monthly, or I think it's a weekly email that comes out, but I remember reading once he said, you are only as good as your worst employee. And I loved that. That really stuck with me, and it makes total sense. And so I think as a consumer, like him taking me through his journey of coffee, again, as a consumer, that's how I operate. It also reminded me of, you know, he asked a question of like, where are some of the great and really bad customer service experiences you've had? And so it reminded me when I was maybe 15 or 16, my sister, we were out by school, we went to Chipotle, and you know, you move down the line, and I'm like, I'd like a burrito, please, with chicken, and you pick the rice, and I'm like, may I have a little more rice? And the guy was like, he started giving attitude, and like by the time my burrito was done, I was like, what? Like I didn't do anything. And so, you know, I wrote to Chipotle, and I was like, you know, that was messed up. Like, and literally I was just a kid. And my sister was like, I am never eating at Chipotle ever again. And she literally has not, because this one guy was rude to her very best friend and her sister. And like, so it does matter. And it reminded me of that. She's still, I'm like, what do you want to eat? You know, there's Chipotle. And she's like, I'm not eating there. So I love that he was also very extreme with his coffee thing. It made me warm about my sister, but it's not crazy to have a bad experience and go that far as to avoid it again. And so I like that he brought that up as like what not to do, even though we all already know that, but it was a good perspective.
Right. And imagine like consistently having that experience. You know, it's like if you don't have a process around your customer experience, you could consistently have those experiences. You know, Laura, do you have any of those experiences? I'm sure.
So yes. So yes, when I was reading this chapter, because I did get to this one as well. Can't believe I forgot to read. Such an idiot. But I related it back to Chick-fil-A because I like, you know, we hear often in my company, you know, it's a lot about our customer service, how our clients are treated. We don't always have the answer, but we always have the perspective of we will help you find that solution. And I related that to Chick-fil-A, right? Like sometimes they're not the best people checking you out, but they're consistently friendly. They're consistently with a smile. They have, you know, their customers always feel the same way. And I tell you, I hate to shop like at the airport Chick-fil-A's because a lot of times it's not the same mentality. And it is so flipping disappointing because they have broken that system. And I say that because in the New Orleans airport, when I fly out, I always go get a chicken biscuit, and they're not rude, but they're not
different. It's a different experience.
And I'm like, you know, of course you shop there because you're limited to what else is available. And I don't eat everything, but that was kind of what I related it to. And I think 2023 is just going to move forward with my business to where we just continue to make that same consistent experience, right? That same consistent, we're going to help you no matter what your problem is perspective. And so I thought it was a fantastic chapter. I don't know that I am as extreme as to never, ever, ever use one place, because sometimes convenience is more important. But I will say systems and how clients are treated is starting to become more important. I don't want to shop at Kroger anymore because their new system is to put self-checkout lanes and then locking wheels on your fucking buggy. And I had no idea. I was walking out. I had been checked out. I didn't even check myself out. And I was walking out, of course, at my hurriedly speed. and my buggy locked up, and I actually like got whiplash, like just
Oh wow.
like because I was not expecting it to stop. And I turned around and looked at the cashier that was standing there. I was like, your system fucking sucks. So I'm not a criminal. Your guy checked me out. Why is my buggy locking up?
Right.
But I do think that people are starting to get more and more cognizant of how company systems are. And I think those that don't have good systems will start going under, because those that do make a difference in the consumer's opinion.
Right. So, chapter 18, and I want to kind of save some time for chapter 19 as well. What really stuck out in this one? So for me, I'll kick this one off. So he talks about one, like self-ruminate less, and then two, this one kind of stuck with me. Like if there's like an altercation, or if there's a problem, or if there's anything, it's like, he's like, okay, well, set up a meeting, let's get right back into it. Let's talk right about it now. Going back to his principle of do it now. And it's just like, that's huge, and then kind of going back to what we were saying earlier, a lot of the times, it's other people's systems that kind of cause us problem and, grief. But if we go back to that, be proactive, out of one of the books we've read before, it's like, the more we can be proactive in what we can change, the more it almost influences, outside, externally. So, anything else from this chapter, you guys, that really stuck with you guys?
I
I'm
didn't
an
get through this
introvert.
one.
I'm an introvert,
Alicia?
so hyper communicating for me was like, maybe not hyper communicating, but I get it. I get his point.
Right.
I'm doing
Wait.
better though. I married a Southerner, so I've come a long way. Now I've got Laura.
I was about to say, she's hooked up with me. She's
Right.
I get it. I get it. I'm trying.
Wait. So chapter 19, this is where he talks about biological prime time versus mechanical prime time. So, just to kind of reiterate him, kind of putting it in different words. So, biological prime time really is just, your peak times in the day. It's just like, when do you feel most productive? When are you really knocking stuff out? When are you killing all the distractions? That's your biological prime time. And it's really kind of inherent. It's like, it's something, it's going to happen almost every day. You just got to kind of mechanical prime time is a little different. It's not going to happen unless you make it. If you go back to the book Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, where he talks about that cube, quadrant 3, that's your proactive activities. That's your, those are your things that are going to kind of pull you out of production. And the more you pull yourself out of production, the more you really free up time for yourself, to where you can now use that biological time to put towards other things. And that's kind of where, in this chapter, he talks about, really getting more time to kind of put into other things. You want to pick up another hobby, you want to spend more time with your kids. So kind of getting into that, what would more mechanical prime time look like in you guys' lives and you guys' business? That's a
So
non-book related question. So Laura, you're not excused.
oh,
So my biological is I'm a morning person.
Mhm.
My prime time is like right when I wake up. I don't like when people need breakfast from me, or like things get in the, and so like I know when my prime time is dwindling, and I get really frustrated. Like I'm like, those are my, like, that's my working out, like after, and I know that like from 7 a.m. it starts, and then by 2 p.m. like I'm done. My day is done. It's time to wind down and do something else and think about dinner and do all of the not cognitive, less cognitive functions. So when, like when they ask me, can we have a new recipe? I'm like, but I have to read it and I have to think about it. Like, let me just make something I don't have to think about, or let's have it on the weekend. So I do know what kind I am. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier and yesterday to Laura was we need our mechanical time freed up so that we can jump fully, like so all our ships can be full steam ahead with the social stuff we're trying to do. So I know exactly where my time would go. I feel like daily by midday, I'm frustrated that I just don't have enough time to do what I want to do in a day. So yeah, having more mechanical time would cut my mental timeline by a lot, but I have to make money to make more money. So I get frustrated by that a lot too. So Laura, probably same story for you.
Laura's playing with Mazzy.
Sorry, she's not losing her mind, but like somebody must be out. I don't see them, but they must have just walked by. So I don't know that I have a certain time of day. I think it's more about daily activity for me. With ADD, I wake up in the morning and I go until my brain has hit a wall. And then when it hits the wall, you're done. And that wall can happen at 2 in the afternoon, or that wall can happen at 6 in the afternoon or 8 at night. I mean, there's days I find myself, I go until I stop, and there's very little in between. I think finding systems and finding more time to Alicia's point, I would say that it is frustrating when I have a schedule, it's written out, and today I forgot fucking book club. I don't know why it wasn't on my schedule. It's here. I wrote it. I looked at my calendar. I do know why I forgot it. But it's for me, I think it's freeing up more personal time, right? I think that's the main focus for me is why am I doing all of this? Why do I put these systems in place? What is lacking in my life? And it's more personal time, which is why I forgot book club today, because my husband has decided to pack in photography lessons. Enough. And dance lessons all in the same day. And I'm like, Mazzy, come on, lay down. Come on, good girl. Lay down. Oh, it's good. Lay down. I know. She sits here. Like, she's so aggravated. These people are not talking to her. Like, don't you see me? I'm here.
Go get them, Mazzy.
I know. Enough. Okay. She's starting to get very spoiled because everybody pets her. So I think she's started realizing that if she goes to the front door, she's going to get somebody to pet her butt. But that's kind of what it is for me. It's like I said, I think it's more about where I hit my brick wall is what was the night like before? Did I get my 6 to 8 hours of sleep? Because if I didn't, I'm going to hit that wall somewhere around 2 o'clock. And I don't know that Alicia has seen this yet, but when I hit it, you can kiss the day goodbye. Like, it's gone. David's seen it.
Yeah.
And it's gone. And it's crazy to me because there's some nights like David will call me. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm still at my desk working, motherfucker. What are you doing? And he ain't sitting in this. And I don't even realize that it's 8 o'clock at night. And I've had a good night's sleep. I've had a very focused day. I find that if I have to interact with a lot of new people, that can be exhausting for me because my brain is consistently sizing them up because that's just how it works. Like it takes me a few times to kind of understand somebody. Once I feel like I understand them, then I think that takes less brain power. So when I use less brain power during the working day, I think there's more longevity to it. So
Sweet. So if I'm taking care of my systems, my biological systems, then my BPT is usually around it's either early morning or it's very, very late evening, which I feel like is strange. It's almost like during the day I don't want to work. So, but in order to get more mechanical prime time, and I'll challenge you guys to do this as well, really kind of here in closing, So he talks about like as you guys write your lists and as you guys write your schedules and you kind of go through what tasks need to get done, what's important, ask yourself like how can I delegate and automate some of these like aspects of your of these tasks of these jobs, and then also ask yourself, you know and are any of these like even needed anymore? Does this need, can we discard, old or outdated processes? So, in closing.
I love that. That reminds me of the one thing. Find the one thing that you can do that makes everything else easier or not necessary, right? It's a good combination of the two books to kind of look at it that way. As you eliminate the things that you don't need, you do that by starting with the things. Okay, what is the one thing? What is the, like for me, if I'm trying to open up that bandwidth in my brain power, the one thing is making sure dinner's on the table by 7 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't go to sleep till dinner's on the table, the kids are fed, the kitchen's clean. Like there's a lot of organization that has to happen in my life.
Right.
And I like your tapestry, by the way, a lot.
I'm at my sister's house.
I like your sister's tapestry, by the way, a lot.
She made it herself.
Can she make me one? I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I'll ask her. You have a thing to attach it to?
Well, fuck no.
She once had one attached to like an old yard tool. It's a different pole now, but she might have that one still.
Oh, I'm sure I could buy something. Anyway, I didn't mean to I've been looking at it like the whole time.
Is that the last chapter?
No, we have one more week. I have a week and a half because I have to catch up to everyone. But for next week, we should be finishing 20 and 21.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe I'll say some things about 19.
Sounds good. I think you'll like 19.
I'm excited after hearing you kind of talk about it. I'm like, I don't know what this time blocking thing they're talking about is, but sounds cool.
You're gonna call me after you read it. You're like, I got things to say now.
Awesome. Well, I will see you guys on time next week, I promise, for the conclusion of the book. And Alicia, do you have the book that we're going to start yet? Do you know that one?
So I have some choices.
Okay.
I don't know if I should run them by you guys.
No,
or...
this is a dictatorship.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you pick that. You pick it.
You pick it and tell us to read it, motherfucker.
Then I'm gonna go. Yes. You want me to give it to you?
Yes.
Steve is missing. I'm picking The Go-Giver by Bob Berg.
By Bob Berg. Will you text that to everybody so Steve knows it as well?
Yes.
Thank you. And then I don't have to write it down if I'm just being honest.
That's why I always text everyone after. I'm like, all right, these chapters, because then I'll go back and like, okay, what did we
I'm
say?
so grateful you do that. So
Okay, good. I was like, this is
my
really for
book,
me,
and I
but
forgot the chapters.
System.
it works for me. So I'm glad it's working for you guys too. I'm like, this is a little selfish, but here
Oh man.
Yeah, no, we love it.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I am excited about the last 3 chapters that I have to read and the new book.
Same. I gotta go check that out. All right, y'all.
I'll see y'all all before Tuesday, but I'll see you next Tuesday.
Oh, absolutely.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.